Good morning. May I ask you, what is the meaning of falling in love at first sight? You think of different movies that you've seen, maybe The Notebook, or Julia Roberts and Richard Gere and Pretty Woman. Love at first sight is often this idea where there's this meet cute of two people that meet in an interesting, a different way, and for the rest of their lives, they are forever enchanted with that, with each other, with that one moment that they met. There's always this great story, and it brings them back and back and back to being in love forever. I've often wondered, though, is that the truth? I mean, we think about these people who have been married that have these great, lovely success stories of being married for 40 years or 50 or 60 years. And I think it's always in the back of our mind, did they ever break up? Did they ever have an affair on each other? Was there a time period where they didn't live in the same household and one started dating someone else or living with someone else or even considered? What ultimately makes a successful relationship? That's when we put it in that light, it kind of breaks our image of falling in love at first sight. I think a successful relationship is one where both sides, both loving partners, don't ever fall out of love with each other at the same time. Meaning that there are ups and downs. Any relationship you have to add a certain amount of work to, of tenderness and care. What is love at last sight? I would say that love at last sight is probably something that is actually more common. Why? And what does it mean? Well, love at last sight happens when two people normally have a moment that they fall in love and they appreciate each other. But then over a period of time, they start to pull apart. And I think normally what happens is that some type of insecurity enters the relationship. A couple may move in together. They may get married. They may have children. They may, which is often a big pothole, is they may automatically assume that the other person was destined for them and is the love of their lives. And in doing that, they may assume kind of ownership, or that person is always going to be there. Imagine if you saved up your money and you bought your first home on this cute little street in a quaint little town, a seaside town. And in the front yard is this old dogwood, this beautiful tree that will flower in the spring. But it's over to the corner. It's almost right on the property line. But when you take a picture and share it with your friends, it balances out the whole front of the home. But imagine you're so busy with the purchase of this home and then getting in the home and the bathroom's not right and then the kitchen is not right and you'll just do the garden later on and you don't really have time to take care of the plants because you have so much other stuff. You need a roof, your Wi-Fi is not working, all this other stuff. But when you back out of your driveway and you leave, you see that tree. Even though you never go over to that tree, you never touch its flowers or its leaves or taste its fruit or smell its fragrance, it's there and you own it. It came with the house. Now imagine you come home from work one day and you receive some bit of mail in your mailbox and it mentions something from the cute little town, from the council, and it says something about trees, but you don't have time for that, and you throw it away. And then imagine one day you pull out of your driveway, back into your driveway, and you go down the road, and a big truck is coming and you have to kind of pull over on the side of the road, and the tree is there. And for a minute you glimpse that tree and you think of, that's a nice tree. One day I'm gonna do something with that tree. But right now is not the time. I've got too much other stuff going on. And you go on to work. Then imagine you come home that evening and the road that you live on has been widened. And all of a sudden, that tree is no longer in your yard. That tree no longer exists anywhere. It is gone, forever gone. And your house, that picture of your house, is no longer balanced. And you didn't realize how much that tree added to the beauty, not just the beauty of your home, but the beauty of the whole neighborhood. Its blossoms, its fragrance, its leaves, its fall color. And you think to yourself, I have to get this back, but there's no way to get this back. And then you go to the city council and you say, but I love that tree. And they said, the tree with weeds growing up around it? The tree that you never fertilized? The tree that you never read a book or took a nap under or hung a bird feeder in? You mean you love that tree? That's love at last sight. So often in our relationships, we become insecure. Become insecure, why? Because we're out of balance, because we have so much going on, that we start to judge ourselves. And when we start to judge ourselves often, we begin to judge others. When we are not kind to ourselves, give ourselves all that we need, support the one half of the relationship that we're responsible for, our half, we often begin to be cruel to our beloved. We often say to our beloved, you need to dress this way, or you need to eat the same way that I do. You need to exercise. You need to think the same way that I do. And what we end up doing 9 times out of 10 is changing that person into someone who no longer wants to be with us. And that person, a good partner, will come. They will send you a note. They will send you a letter. They will give you hints and say, I'm not happy and I am going to leave. But hey, we already classified them as our property, as something that was destined for us. You are the love of my life. Okay, so get away from me. Go stand in the corner on the property line, and I will get to you. I will fertilize you. I will talk to you. I will hang a bird feeder in your boughs of your tree when I got time. And then our partner one day is suddenly gone. That is love at last sight. It's much more common. How do we sustain love? Well, we sustain love by, first of all, let's talk a little bit about love. The majority of people who say they fall in love with someone, what do they really fall in love with? They fall in love with someone who meets the most of their needs and wants. If you really fall in love with the person, then you don't have to say, you need to dress like me, you need to think this way, you need to do this. In my second book, Before There Were Flowers, it talks all about different relationships. Probably a dozen different relationships. Monogamous relationships, polyamorous relationships, bachelors, people who are widowed. It talks about sex workers, people who visit sex workers. It even talks about 2 young teenagers who are growing up in this environment of all of these different types of relationships, and they are hearing these different types of relationships, and they are trying to figure out what is love for them. These two teenagers are unknowing, they haven't met each other, but they go for a walk in this great forest. And they are both individually on a path, alone. But they are enjoying the trees, they are enjoying the birds, they're enjoying the feeling of the earth under them. And they're so wrapped up in their own journey through this forest that they both look down finally and they see a heart-shaped piece of quartz on the ground, a stone. And they both lean forward to take this stone, and they bump heads and they fall backwards. And when they come to realization, they see the other partner in front of them and they say, wow, I didn't think anyone else was on the same path. I thought I was completely alone. And so they both were reaching for this same trinket, the same stone that they both favored and liked. And the boy says to the girl, I want you to have this. I want you to keep this for me. I want you to take this and always keep it. And because you will always have it, I will always be happy. And the girl says to him, that's too much for me to bear. That's too much responsibility. That's too much weight for you to put on me. Your happiness, for me keeping your happiness. And so what they decide to do is, rather than one of them taking responsibility for the entire happiness of the relationship, and the other one being following, and the other one leading, they decide to meet every day back on the path and play together. No drama, no stress, just play together, enjoying life together. A few of us will be lucky enough to fall in love at first sight. I would say the greatest of relationships in this world have gone through periods of time when they have not been in love. But yet what brings them back? What makes them last for so long? I think it's an agreement that both of them are individuals responsible for their own happiness, and they meet every day to play together, to enjoy life together, to pleasure. And in doing so, it fertilizes that tree. It hangs something. They take time to read books under this tree in their garden of love, to share, to play. That's what I write about a lot in the book of Say. I write about the two types of love. Love at first sight, love at last sight. Love at first sight will most likely last a lifetime. Shakespeare said, if you love me, I will always be in your heart. And if you hate me, I will always be in your mind. I encourage you to be good to yourself, and in doing so, you will be good to your beloved. Take care. Have a good weekend.